The power of having a personal network. What's happening? It's Erik J. Olson. Not only on this podcast do we talk about our experiences and what we're learning by growing this business, but we also like to talk to other entrepreneurs. And today I interviewed a fellow member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, also referred to as EO. And we were talking about the very beginning of the pandemic. And by the very beginning, I mean like the first, couple of days and what that was like, the massive change that happened, not only in our personal lives by being stuck at home and being fearful of the pandemic and the virus, but also to our businesses. And I explained, it's not in this clip, but I explained in the live that I did how on March 16th, 2020, my phone was ringing off the hook from clients that needed to cancel or pause, or they were just afraid. They didn't know what was happening. Well, my guest had the same kind of situation, except his was a few weeks later in April. So the guest was Ben Holliday. He is the owner of two companies. The first is Holiday Energy Law Group. This is out of San Antonio, Texas. And then the second, which is one that he really started during the pandemic, is Massive Minerals. And he was explaining, not only his situation in the beginning of the pandemic, but the response and how he leaned on his network, and in particular, EO. And we have a short conversation that I want to play for you about the power of a network, when to create it, why to create it, and when to actually leverage it. Check it out.
Because we got a lot of those same calls too, right? If you looked at U.S. oil and gas activity, not only are we tied to the commodity price, but there's something called the rig count, like how many rigs are drilling in the United States. That shows how much work there is out there. At the beginning of 2020, there was 900 rigs. About a month and a half later, there was about 200 rigs. And so that's the cliff face that the activity level fell off of. And, it was hard enough to get through it. I can't imagine doing it without a supporting community like EO to help out.
Yeah, no, I agree, and and you're right about like the social change that happened immediately with coronavirus at the same time, right? And the impact on people and their feelings about life and work and everything else, And so we had a lot of things colliding at the same time. Massive change happening in the business, massive change happening in your daily activities. And yeah, the community was extremely helpful. I'm part of a mastermind as well that's outside of EO, and they were extremely helpful as well. So, I would say, yes, EO was massively helpful when it came to things like the PPP and the EIDL that was coming out around, a little bit later after the time frame that we're talking about, but came out really soon in the pandemic. EO was helpful. This mastermind was very, very helpful. And so really it was just about, to make it a little more general, was surrounding yourself in a community of like-minded people, right? Your network, and relying on your network. I think that's really important. And a lot of people that I meet, unfortunately, don't cultivate a network until they need it.
Yep.
And when they need it is not the time to cultivate that network. You need that network in place long before you actually need to call on it.
Absolutely. It's like insurance, right? You can't buy insurance after you've had a wreck. And so if I could go back, I mean, there's lots of things I tell my younger self, that 27-year-old guy that went to work for the oil company, there's lots of wisdom I could impart to him. Maybe just start mining Bitcoin, I don't know. But, one thing I realized that I underappreciated then was the value of network and to go cultivate it, like you said, before you need it. Because now in the way, whether it's asset owners for Massive Minerals or it's oil and gas companies for the law firm, it's all who in relationships. I mean, I could put up a billboard tomorrow and it would get zero ROI on it. It's all about, do people trust me? Do they find me trustworthy? Have they worked with me before? Is there a positive reference? And it takes, months, if not years, to develop those relationships. And then they're really handy in an unexpected time like COVID. I mean, nobody saw that coming. And then to be able to draw down on those was a saving grace for us in many respects.
Hey there, it's Erik J. Olson. I wanted to let you know about my book, $1 Million Journey: How to Launch a 7-Figure Business. This is the story of what it took for me to go from freelancer with no clients, no employees, no revenue, to growing $1 million business. It took me 8 years, and I made a lot of mistakes. And all of those mistakes, and more importantly, lessons learned, are in this book. And we have chapter takeaways, 5 to 15 takeaways that you can apply right now to your business. Check it out on Amazon, $1 Million Journey by me, Erik J. Olson.